All right, guys. So in this session, we are going to go over tracking your KPIs, marketing related and other business related KPIs using REsimpli. This is a test account with numbers. Some of the numbers just look a little bit funky. Just please excuse. We just enter some dummy data in here for testing purposes. So if you're not familiar, this is what the KPI dashboard looks like. You can enter your goals for how many deals you want to do. You can update it right here. You can update how much revenue you want to make this year, and you can also update how much net income you would like to make from that revenue this year. And then as you recognize, as you book any revenue or net income, our system would keep track of everything. And this here on the right tells you where are most of your deals coming from, which is the best performing marketing channel. So in this case, it tells me you have 6 deals coming, from direct mail at $11.57 ROI. So 11.57 would mean for every dollar that I put into direct mail, I'm making $11.57 back. And in this case, the direct mail also happens to be the best ROI in this account. So this would tell me which marketing channel am I getting most of my deals from. And this tells me which marketing channel is performing best for me. So I could have 2 different marketing channels. One might be getting me a lot of deals like direct mail, but there could be another one, for example, PPC, that's giving me the highest ROI in the business. And this here keeps track of your cost per lead, cost per deal, how much money you spent in marketing so far, and how much revenue you've generated, and what's the overall marketing ROI. So for every dollar that you put into marketing, for everything that you're doing in your business, how much money are you making from that? And this keeps track of all your lead and deal flow for the last 12 months. So this would tell you, for example, in February 2022, there were 22 leads, 1 appointment, 3 offers, 1 deals. March, and then these are the April numbers. And where are, by default, this is set to this year, where are the leads coming from for this year? Marketing ROI for different marketing that you're running in your business. How much is the ROI for every single marketing channel, and different marketing channels that you're spending money on, how much money you're spending and how much money you're making from that. Messages sent for last 7 days, number of calls. You can also filter this data by each user if you wanted to do that. So this is very high level, and you can see the detail behind all of these numbers by going into the marketing tab, which tells you it's the same data over here, but it just breaks everything down by every single campaign that you're running in your business. So it shows you, for example, in this case, I spent $2,005 in cold calling, but I've not made any money. I've gotten 4 leads from it. I can click right here and see all the leads that I've gotten from it. And you can see for direct mail, I spent 42,763 and I made 494,000. Again, I can click here. It'll show me all the properties that I made money from, and I can click on that specific property and it'll take me to that transaction that I had for that property. So it does that. And you can also expand each marketing channel, each marketing lead source that you have to see if any specific campaign, how every single specific campaign is performing. So overall, I can see that, my ROI for every dollar that I'm putting into direct mail, I'm making $11.57, but it's the probate one where I'm making actually $50.86. Again, this is just a dummy account, but as you start marketing to different marketing channels or different marketing lists that you have, you want to start seeing the data of different lists that you might be sending direct mail to, different lists that you might be cold calling to, how each of those lists are performing. There's one thing is about knowing the data for your business at overall, for marketing, how much money you spent versus how much revenue you made. Then the next level of that is knowing about every single lead source like direct mail, cold calling. And then the ultimate level is to know by every single campaign that you're running in your business. So for example, in this case, I can see I've spent $8,100 in probate and I made $416,000 from just spending $8,100. So if I have limited marketing budget, I would want to make sure that all of that goes towards probate list before this number starts coming a little bit lower. As long as this number is above my average of $11.57, I want to make sure I'm putting more and more money into my probate list, because that's the one that's generating me more revenue, much higher rate of return than any other list that I'm marketing to. And then this also tells me that my direct mail is performing really well for the probate list. So I might also want to look at cold calling my probate list to see if the same list could give me really good data in my business. And this right here tells me, and all of these numbers are clickable. So if I want to see the 4 deals that I've done, I can see these are the 4 deals. I can click on any one of them. It takes me to that specific property. And I can also see for my conversion KPI, so how many leads do I need before I get an appointment from my probate list? How many appointments before I make an offer? How many offers do I have to make before I get a deal from this lead? How many leads do I need before I get a deal? And how many appointments do I need to go on before I get a deal? Again, these numbers are going to look wacky because this is a testing account. So we just delete some stuff, upload some new stuff. But you'll have the data once you start populating the actual leads. You'll have this data. So how you input these numbers is you can go into the banking section. So there's a couple of things you can do. The first thing is you can link up your bank accounts. You can click on link. We are integrated on the backend with Plaid. So when once you click on this, it goes through a third-party integration. Plaid it's a very well-known company. A lot of larger, I think Venmo uses the same platform. TransferWise and a lot of large companies uses the same platform for Plaid. So you can do this. It links up with over 10,000 different banks. I think they cover about 90 to 95% of banks in the US. So you can, these are the most popular ones, but if you had a local bank that you want to do, you can search the name and I'll pull up those banks and you can see their logo and then, match based on the URL. But let's say if you had an account with Chase, you just click right here and it takes you through an integration process where you enter username and password. Then it sends you, if you have a 2-factor authentication with your bank, it sends you a text message on your cell phone or email code, or you might get a code and they input that only, then it'll allow. So we don't store any username and password on our system. It's done, everything is done through third party. Hey, Jamie, you had a question?
Yes, sir. Before we move away from KPIs, because now we're going towards the bank account, I had a question and possibly a feature request. Right now, by default, it's only going back what? Is it 1 calendar trailing year?
So this by default, when you come here, it shows you for this year. That's the default it's set to.
Got it. And then can you click on time period? Are you able to set that as a custom, oh, you can. Okay, that was my question. I wanted to make sure that you could do it by quarter or custom. So that was my question. Thank you.
Yeah, so we have these set, this week, this month, like most, frequently used time period, but you can do custom also if you wanted to see a specific time period that you have.
Yep, that was my question. Awesome, thank you.
And we just recently added that you can filter your data based on different markets and based on specific roles and also based on a specific user that you have in the market.
That's beautiful.
So you can do all of this, the KPI and the marketing also. Like a lot of investors that are using REsimpli are on multiple markets. So if you wanted to see this data for a specific market also, let's just say I wanted to see this, then it'll show me just the data for that. So for example, I have nothing going on in that specific market, so it shows me no data. So yeah, you can definitely do that. It doesn't save it as a default, but you can come back and filter it for that specific time period, but the default will always be this calendar year.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, so you can link up your bank account once it goes through third party, it authenticates your bank account. And then once it's linked, it'll pull up those transactions into the system. Again, none of your username, password, or any of that, it's saved within REsimpli. All of that goes through Plaid. Again, if you use Venmo, TransferWise, or any of those companies, it just works exactly the same way. So once your transactions come into our system, this is what it'll look like. Initially, they'll go into the unrecognized tab, meaning that we have no information on that. And as you start inputting some data based on the transaction memo, we'll move it over to recognize, meaning, if you know that this transaction, for example, you paid to ABC marketing company and this was general business, not assigned to a specific property, and this was for direct mail, then you can go ahead and select these and then confirm. Then it'll move over to your financial reporting. Then you don't have to manually go in and input each of the information. But how you would update your marketing data is, so that's it, this transaction pulled from my, let me take a bigger transaction. I'm going to take this, for example. Let me go into the KPI. And I'm going to go right here. So what I am going to do is, let's say I spend this money on my direct mail order to ABC marketing. You can add any vendors that you have. And let's say this was paid online, and you can put a transaction or a reference number if you want to. And if you are paying your business expense, and if it's not related to a specific property, then I would just leave it at general business. Again, this is just your general business expense, not related to any specific property. And then for the account, you would do direct mail. So once you select this marketing lead source, it's going to pull up all the campaigns that you're running in that specific lead source. So if you notice direct mail, I just have probate list. Other is a default for any time you do not assign a marketing campaign to that. It just goes into other. But let's say in this case, I'm going to assign probate list. So additional $1,300. So once I do that and I update, so this is $8,100 right now. Once I update, go back into my marketing tab. So it got updated to $9,484. And my ROI was $50 and change before. Now it dropped down to $43.89. So as you're inputting any information related to your marketing, for any marketing that you're doing or any revenue that you're generating, it's going to keep updating in real time. Jeremy, you had another question?
Yep, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. All good. Yeah.
If I already have a chart of accounts built into my QuickBooks, do you recommend I just do a complete copy and move it over to Simply, or is there?
Yeah, I mean, most of the accounts that you need are already built out. So you don't, like, most of them you won't have to create. Like, for example, these are all standard accounts that are built within the system, like accounting fee, 95% of the accounts that you would want to use already built out. So for example, if you add a new campaign in your marketing, we will automatically create that in the campaign. So where I was entering the transaction to that specific campaign, we will automatically create that. But yeah, if you have, like, I would guess, 90 to 95% of your accounts that you're using in your business should already be created in the system. Again, our system is built specifically for real estate investors. So most of the stuff you're using should automatically be here. But if it's not, then you can just go ahead and create a new account right here. But if you have like hundreds of accounts that you want to import, you could just send us the Excel file and then we can import it all for you. So this way you don't have to go in and manually do that.
Okay. And now in that case, would you recommend that I reverse engineer this and go back to QuickBooks and have QuickBooks match your accounts so that they talk to each other?
I would not do that. Like, as long as once you export out of QuickBooks and you know the account type, whether it's an asset account, liability, expense, income, and then you have the category, like we track a lot more than QuickBooks does. So, QuickBooks, when you're setting up an account, it would, ask you for account name and then the account type is required, but we also have the, the category. So, we can produce more KPIs for you. But you should be able to match it. Like if you have an Excel file, again, I would guess that 90% of the accounts that you're using in the business should already be there. We might have a different name for it, but those account types should match. But if they're not, I would not change it. I mean, you could change it in like some of the, like, for example, if we have something that's called acquisition commission, right? And you call it something else in QuickBooks, then I could, before you export, then you could change it in QuickBooks just to match for some of those. But if it's like one-off expense, for example, let's say appliances or airfare that you're not using very often, then you could just, when you import, you could change the name into this system, or, before you import, you could change the name so it matches exactly with what we have.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, cool, Matt. Yeah, so that's how you would enter your transaction. So that's how you would enter any of the marketing expense, and you can do it for any kind of expenses that you have. For example, if I go right here and I could enter it for any of my marketing expense, or I could just enter it for anything else. Let's say if This was a car rental. I was traveling out of town, and I paid this for a car rental expense. I could just say, like, I could save this expense, and then this is going to go into my income statement as car rental. You'll notice that the other transaction that I had that matched with the transaction memo updated to car rental because our system is suggesting, hey, based on the previous transaction that you did do that transaction memo, we think this would be car rental. But if it's not, you can just go right here and just only change the specific account. Let's say this was actually, bookkeeping fee, for example. So you could do that, and it would do based on that specific transaction. Now you update to bookkeeping fee based on that transaction memo. So always use the last transaction memo based on the transaction that you did. You'll update based match with that transaction memo and update based on that. And then you can go right here into the reports. So you have the general ledger, and income statement is the one you would want to look at least on a monthly basis. And this is where it would pick up all your transactions. So for example, I had the car rental of $56.70. I can click right here, show me a list of all the transactions that I have. And then this is what the P&L looks like, your income statement would look like. It'll show you the total income, for example, that you have, $536,000. And what's the breakdown of that? How much of that came from your fix and flip income? So again, these are already built in the system. So as you are adding a new account, we will ask you, okay, what type of asset this is. So we can give you this breakdown of, okay, whether this income is coming from your fix and flip properties, whether it's coming from your rental property, or whether it's coming from, your wholesale fee. So you can kind of see in your business, out of your total of 536,000, 48% of the revenue is coming from fix and flip, and your 51% is coming from wholesale fee, and then a small percentage is coming from other income that you have, and then some is coming from rental income. And then same thing happens for your expenses. You can see this is my total expenses are 30% of my total revenue, and my net income is 69%, almost 70% of my total revenue. And then it shows me the breakdown that I have as a percentage of total income and as a percentage of total expenses. What's my breakdown? Like how much of the admin fee of my total expenses, 25% are admin fee, 37% are my legal and professional, and everything makes up a very small percentage of my income, of my expenses. So, and you can also update these transactions manually. So if you did not want to link up, or for some reason, if you have, we have some users that are using our platform, they might have a couple of bank accounts that, they might just be running 1 or 2 transactions from, and they don't necessarily want to link up the whole bank account and just do those specific transactions. And in that case, what you can do is you go back to add account, and instead of link account, you click on manual account. You can enter the bank name, say this is a manual bank, and then choose the account type, whether it's a checking account, savings, or credit card. It's important that you enter it correctly here, because we'll be rolling out balance sheet in next week or 2. And then based on what you enter here, it's going to get updated on the balance sheet. So let's say it's my checking account, and then I can just enter the last 4 digits and what's the balance on the account. So for example, if I'm entering my account today, or let's say if I'm going back to April 1st and I'm entering my account balance as of April 1st, then I can say my balance is 10,000 as of April 1st. So once I'm making any transactions to that account, it'll update based whether the date of that transaction is before April 1st or after April 1st. So you can do the same thing. If you want to enter a transaction, you click right here in the manual bank account. The only thing is, if you had your bank account linked, it would pull the amount, whether it's an expense or income. It just doesn't do that. So you have to enter everything manually, but you could do the same thing. That's an ABC marketing. So I spent $2,500 in expense, and this was online. And I can do the same thing, general business, and this would be my direct mail. And let's say in my account, I'm going to do the probate list. So once I go ahead and save this, I go back into my KPIs. So it's going to update based on that. So it was less than 10,000. So it went up to almost 12,000 now. And then this number also updated. So you could do all transactions based on for the manual bank account. But again, if you have a bank account where you have more than 10, 15 transactions per month that you want to a link that you want to enter, I recommend linking up the bank account. So, it's going to take care of, based on the recognized transaction, it's going to, make your work a lot easier. Another thing you can do in any of these transactions, which I highly, highly recommend, having gone through an IRS audit, is anytime you have an expense, make sure you add the attachment, especially if it's an expense that you are incurring, whatever it might be, especially if you're paying it to your contractors, or if you're paying it to an individual. Just based on my experience, I had to provide a lot of information for the expenses that I have, 1099s, copies of that. So we always do that. Luckily, I didn't have any adjustment from IRS, meaning, they said we're going to audit you 2017 and 18, I believe it was. But after the audit, they had zero adjustment. They didn't have any penalty, no change in tax. But it was because, I had really good documentation. So that's what I would recommend. If you're, let's say if I have this expense of $2,500 for direct mail, if you have an invoice, just click right here, attach, and then it'll upload whatever invoice or whatever documentation that you have for that specific transaction. Because what's going to happen is, let's say if you were to get audited, the way it would work is they would ask you, okay, they would just give you a list of transactions or list of, if I remember, the amounts that you have on your tax statement. And then they would say, okay, can you provide me proof of this? So just, you can literally go in and based on the chart of accounts, you can say, all right, for example, if they ask me proof of all of the accounting fee, I can go right here. And if I had transaction uploaded, I could just quickly click download and then just provide it to them. It would be as simple as that. So if you're not doing that, I highly, highly recommend including as much for the expenses, especially all the documentation you can. It will make your life a lot simpler down the road.
Hey, Sharad.
Yep.
Quick question, talking about expenses. If you're doing a fix and flip, where do you upload the contractor's bid or proposals and all that?
Yeah, so if you're doing a fix and flip, you can do into the inventory. Let's say if this was a property that I was trying to get a bid for, I could just go into SOW and click right here, add SOW. And we do a lot of fix and flip. I have about 7 or 8 projects going on right now. So we pretty much have anything that you can imagine doing with the fix and flip included here. You can do an itemized scope of work, or you could do a lump sum. So if you're doing an itemized, the only thing would be, let's say, let me go into painting, for example. Let's say we're doing interior painting. If it was itemized, it would say, okay, paint drywall, prep drywall for paint, and then you can put that information based on unit of measurement that you have. We personally, in our business, we just use a lump sum. We hardly ever get, if it's something like countertop, in that case, we can say, all right, you're going to do 50 square feet. We're going to pay you $20 a square feet. It's going to be $1,000. So those are different. But most of the other stuff, we just go in, put in a lump sum amount, and we select the contractor from right here. And then you choose who is paying for the material, whether it's the contractor or the owner paying for the material. And then you just select that, and then you save it in the system. And then it just becomes, scope of work. It'll show you the total of everything that you have in your account.
But what about if it's from the contractor, like their scope of work or contract for the bid? Like,
if they provide you?
Yep.
Yeah, we always convert it into our system because, we want to know, like when I'm doing calls with my team, let me pull up one in my here.
You know what I mean? If they're providing it, I just want to make sure I know what they've sent to me before.
Yeah. I mean, if they have, like, for example, this is an actual project that we're doing right now, 26,964 plate. And this was our scope of work, $57,200. So this is what, like, Sergio is one of our main contractors that we work with. So if I want to see what he's doing, I can just click right here and I can go through exactly what. So he might provide me scope of work in his format, but we always go back and we put it into our system. But what you could always do is, what we've done is, like, you could print, let's say, you could make like a dummy scope of work and check all of these, right? And that becomes your template, so to speak. So for example, if you made this, and then you can, let me show you, like, test SOW. Actually, I don't have a contractor edit here. But what would happen is, like, you would just, let me create it in here, then I'll delete it. So let's say this is test SOW. I would put a start date. Let's say this is starting today. it'll finish in a week. Let's say
Mhm.
I'm just going to put $1. And let's say this person is going to work on a contractor. So doesn't matter. So what I would do is, let's say what we did was we literally went in and checked every single box. And let's say
Uh-huh.
I just do this add scope of work. So now imagine you've checked every single box that you have.
Mhm.
Then what you do is you just go ahead and print it. So it's a blank copy, and then
Mhm.
you can make multiple copies. So when you're walking through the project, this becomes your template. And let's say if somebody's going to frame walls, then you would have a hard copy, like a paper printed copy. And then
Mhm.
when your project manager or you're walking through, you would just select frame walls, and then you would just write whatever details that you want for that specific project. And then what you would do is you would come back, and then for example, you're creating a scope of work, and let's say you happen to do frame walls. You can say frame the walls
Got
in
it. Got
North
it. So you
bedroom.
have to duplicate it basically. You can't just upload
It's
the.
Yeah, it won't, because the contractors would give you their bid in all different formats. Some of them would give you in Excel, some of them would give you in Word document, some of them would give you literally handwritten, or some of them would just like text you something. But we
Uh-huh.
make sure we go back and like put everything in the system, because
Got
when I'm
it.
doing calls with my team, and then you can put images also. We don't really do that, but if you had images that you wanted to put, you could do
Mhm.
that. Then when I'm going through calls with my project management team, we say, okay, we spent 57,000, a scope of
Mhm.
work is 57,201. And this is the actual financials of the project so far. So I can see I've spent $151,286 on it. And I can
Uh-huh.
see literally these are all the transactions that have come directly from my bank account. So all the
Wh-
transactions that I'm making updating in my banking, it's going to attach it with that specific property. So I can go back. So I don't have to go into that specific property. Let's say if I'm in this
Okay.
specific project, I can just be into the financial, and I
Uh-huh.
can talk to my team and say, hey, who did we pay this $1,000 for? Sergio, we paid $9,000. And if I just wanted to pull for that specific vendor, for example, if I wanted to do Sergio, I can just click right here, and I can see all the money that I paid in, $37,200. And then I can go back to my scope of work and see, okay, we just owe him $2,000 more on this project.
Where do you add the contractors, or where do you add them to?
Contractors, you would add right here in the vendors. So
Vendors.
if I go back, yeah. So you would go into the vendors and you would add the vendor right here. So whoever
Got
you
it.
want to add. So for example, when I was putting my expenses in ABC marketing, so this would be a vendor. I mean, this was all general business, but if I had something that was for a specific property, then it would show up in that property that I have running right here. For example, if I had some expenses that I put for this property, then it would show up right here. So if I went back, this is 4812 Carey Street. Let me go. So let's say if I have this property, 48. So Jeremy,
Got
the
it.
question that you were asking, so this is another thing. So as soon as you buy a property, it's going to automatically show up in the property address. So you never have to add it. So as soon as you close on a property, it's going to show up in your list of property addresses. So Rob, this is where I would select the property. And let's say this was my, appliances. Oops. Let's say this was my appliances that I paid for.
Mhm.
I'm going to select Home Depot, right? If I do this online. Now, if I do this and I go back to that property, I go into the financials. So it shows up right here. So I can see I've spent $488 so far on this property. And if I had a receipt from Home Depot, then what I would do is I would just, upload it right here and attach it to that specific property. So this is what I would do. I would just make it part of that property. So let's say if I were getting audited, I could just
Mhm.
click right here. And then this, I have all the receipts and everything saved. So we don't have anything that we're saving outside of REsimpli for our accounting, or even for our project management or acquisition purposes.
So when you're
Right.
doing flips, you're saying you can just attach the receipts also, just besides for obviously
Exactly.
inputting it into your inventory or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So like I have this transaction that I added, so I could go into this if I wanted to see. Now this will always stay attached with that specific transaction. So I could come back anytime if I want to see, it could be a bid from a contractor, it could be a copy of the check, it could be anything that you have, and you can upload multiple documents. So let's say this was my, receipt from Home Depot. I could just click right here and I could say, all right, this is my receipt from Home Depot. And if I needed it, I could just download it, and I could use it for other purposes. But yeah, I would definitely make sure that you upload your documents, attach your documents with every transaction.
Got it. And last question. And then if you have multiple fix and flip projects, maybe general question, do you have to have separate bank accounts, or how do you keep it organized? Is it just step by
We
step
run
in
everything
here?
through one bank account. Actually, I have two bank accounts. One is our main operational bank account where we buy and sell the properties from. And I live in Canada, and my project manager lives in California, but all our projects are in Indiana. So we created an account with an online bank. Novo Bank is the one that we use. And I put money in there like once or twice a week. And then my project manager is making the payments out of that secondary account. But you could do it all from the same bank account. I just happen to have two just because I'm not the one making the payments, my project manager is. So she'll tell me, hey, can you put $10,000, $15,000 in the bank account? We need to pay for projects, and I'll just put the money, and she'll write the check from that. She has full authority to write the checks, but at any given time, I'm only adding limited funds in that account.
Got it. So as long as you're in here every day putting in those receipts, then you can manage the chaos with multiple projects from one account.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I just simply go through like once a week. Every Monday I have call with my project management team. So these are the projects that we have going on. These three are they should be selling next week. These three are in the contract. These four are going on, and this is a new one that we bought. So let's say we start from right to left. So we'll go through. Okay, is everything on track to close on these? And then we'll go into this. We'll say, all right, let's look at our scope of work and how much money we spent so far. Then I'll just go into the next project, do the same thing, our scope of work and how much money we spent on this. So we're just going through those projects and just going one at a time and just see, okay, are we on track or are we off track? When do we expect to finish it? And then this is where they would update, the date that it's expected to be finished, so we can keep track. When did we expect it to be finished? Like this, it's going to be finished on May 8th. Then I can, again, we have the scope of work, and I can see how much money have we spent on it so far. So this we bought for 25,000, and then we have another 35,000 that we're going to put into it, and it's going to be finished on May 8th.
And the before and after pictures is somewhere there too, right? You can put
right here. So everything is in file. And then, so yeah, they will literally upload videos also. So I can click and I can watch the video if I want to do that. And so this would be the budget summary. This would purchase document, comms, contracts, property walkthrough, photos and videos. And then they would go in and update it on a regular basis.
Awesome. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Anybody else have any other question? Let me just check the chat.
I do have a quick question again.
Yeah, go ahead.
So actually right after the Zoom, I have two meetings with two different fractional CFOs. I was just curious, in your operation, how do you manage all of your bookkeeping? Are you doing it personally yourself? Do you have a VA doing it? I want to be able to ask these questions so that I know that all of my systems are going to sync up and all of my bookkeeping is going to be kept up to date. So how do you do it personally?
Yeah, so I have four different businesses, REsimpli, and then I have a flipping company, I have a property management company, and then I own rental property. So I have a fractional CFO that manages, helps me kind of keep everything in sync. But then I also have a bookkeeper, especially for the property management side. We manage about 165 units now, and there's you can imagine there's rent coming in. Tenants are sometimes being partial rent, you're spending money. So, we have a bookkeeper that's updating that. And she's also updating my books for my flipping company. And she's also updating for my property management and also for REsimpli once a week. And then my CFO, fractional CFO would go in and just make sure, reconcile everything works good. And then he would just, give me the very high level, okay, this is kind of what's going on. This is what we need to pay attention to. And this is going good. And, this is something we can improve on. But anybody that, familiar with bookkeeping or accounting would pick up the REsimpli system really easily. I used to be an accountant. I was a CPA in my prior life before I, started doing real estate full time. So we built a system very specifically for real estate investors. Again, it's, it's all the accounting principles are all the same. So anybody could go in and just start updating it. The important thing is, you want to make sure that it's being updated on a regular basis. You could set up a cadence with your bookkeeper or your CFO. So once it's updated, I would go and review the data at least once a week and see kind of what's working and what's not working. So for example, I would look at the P&L and just go through that and see if something stands out. All of a sudden, if you notice there's like, this number, your general business expense, all of a sudden it's like 50% of your total expenses, then you want to look at that. Or if you notice that, all of a sudden your KPI for one marketing channel is, for example, if I go into this, let's say, in my direct cold calling, for example, I spent $2,000 so far, but I haven't really gotten, made any money. So before, you get too far down the road, if you're looking at a weekly basis or at least, on a monthly basis, and you would know like what's working in your business and what's not working. And, you want to make your business as efficient as possible. So, the goal not being to have a very high top level number. Of course, you want to make, as much revenue as possible, but you want to make as much net profit as possible. So, rather than making $1 million gross revenue and only netting $200,000, I would much rather make $900,000 gross revenue and have $350,000 net profit, because that tells me that I'm running a very efficient business and not, wasting money on things that I don't need to. And then typically, generally in our, industry of wholesaling, wholesaling and real estate investing, marketing tends to be such a big expense. So if you can keep track of your marketing dollars that you're spending and know for every dollar that you're putting in, how much money is coming back into the business, you will have a huge advantage over anybody else in your, in your market. So if for example, knowing this data of, probate list is giving you 34x on your money versus like every other list, then you want to make sure, can you double down on your probate list? Now, so if you're thinking of picking up another marketing channel, this tells you that, you could just start out with probate and just maybe test out your cold calling just with probate list. Or if you're going into a different market and you have this data, and then, if I was looking at this data, I would want to start out with my probate list, direct mail into another market and see how that performs, because you have the data that you're making your decisions on, rather than just guessing on, hey, direct mail is working great for me. Let me just go out and buy less and do direct mail. No, direct mail is working. Like, let's just break down exactly what's working on direct mail. And then like, if you want to go even deeper into it, Jeremy, I know like you and Alex are looking into this, like you can go into specific tags, for example. So if you have, the more tags that you add for your list that you're uploading, more data you'll have, so you have the financial data, but then you can start looking at, for example, the tag of age 50 plus is performing really well for me. Out of the 6 records that I have, I've gotten 4 deals. So now that gives you another layer of data that you can take and just get very targeted with your marketing. And then again, if you're making decisions on, okay, what's the, let's say, the end of the quarter, you want to look at, okay, what's the next thing we should be doing to grow our business and grow our net profit at the end of the day, be more efficient with our marketing, be more efficient with our net profit, then you would want to look at, okay, what's actually working? Let's double down on that. And anything that's, you're on the fence about, or anything that's not working as well as expected, let's just cut back on those expenses and double down on the things that are working, whether it be adding another marketing channel to that specific list that's working really well in, let's say, direct mail, adding cold calling to that specific list, or whether it be going into a different market and knowing that a direct mail probate list is really working well. Let me just do a small test in another market, because I'm really good at pulling probate list. And then I could just take this, I could just take my systems that I have, execute in another market and just test it out and see how well it performs. And then you can just keep replicating that. So that's the information I would look at with the CFO. I mean, the way we build our dashboards are, somebody doesn't need to come in and build this dashboard for you. You could just come in and, you could be up and running with this and knowing exactly what's working or not. But as long as the data is being updated on a weekly basis, I would just come in, look at it on a weekly basis. So for my personal, business, my fractional CFO, he spends majority of his time helping me analyze REsimpli data than he does for my flipping business. Because my flipping business, as long as my bookkeeper is updating everything, then I have all the KPIs that I need. So I don't really need my CFO to build this. So my CFO for REsimpli puts together something like this for me, because there's, we don't have anything like this that could automate everything for us. So he's doing something like this, but for my flipping business, my bookkeeper just makes sure she's updating, then I can just go in and my CFO would review just to make sure that, everything went into the right category, everything right into the right marketing channel, right specific campaign, or if it was a wrong campaign, he would just tell the bookkeeper to update that. So we make sure that something we spent on direct mail probate list did not end up in cold calling probate, for example.
Beautiful. I love it.
Cool.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So do you have all of your different businesses on the same account, or do you have a different account for each business?
Well, we have a different bank account, you mean?
Yeah, so let's say this account that you have open right now, it seems like the whole time you've been talking, it's about lead generation, right?
Yes. So everything from a real estate flipping business, it runs
Right.
out of Max Properties. And then I have another account with Novo Bank. That's where I move money once a week or twice a week for my project manager to pay expenses out of. But for my property management business, I have a whole different bank account. And then for my my rental properties, I have a completely separate bank account. And then for my REsimpli business, it's a separate bank account. But for my real estate business, everything runs through. For my flipping business, everything runs through one bank account. Again, we recently, just last year or within last 18 months, added that online bank account just for the purpose of my project manager paying. And I also have a Citibank credit card. It pays 2% cash back, which I have for my house flipping business. And I also have for REsimpli, just because every dollar that we spend, we get 2% cash back. So it's literally cash back. So if I spend $1,000, they give us $20 back. So we make sure as much as we can pay out of the credit card, we pay out of that. So all the Home Depot, Menards, Lowe's, all the online bills that we pay out of the credit card, just because we get 2% cash back on that.
So this is for your bank accounts, but I mean the properties that you manage, are they also in here also?
No, not property management. So properties that we manage, that we use a system called Rentec Direct. We used to use Palladium, but then we switched over to Rentec Direct, and that's where we manage. So this REsimpli is built specifically for real estate investing.
Once something is transferred outside of a lead, you closed it, now it's a rental property, you remove it from here, or you just save it as?
No, we keep it here. If it's a rental property, I would add it in my rental. And then I would just add it into my rental, but the actual property management of that is done in a different system in Rentec Direct. So we have a property management company, and then they would take over, but I would still look at my financials right here. So I would still track. So my bookkeeper will still update my financials for that specific rental property that I own in my business. So I could see how that rental property is doing. But managing the tenant would be done by my property management company in a different system. Okay.
And Sharad, you said for rentals, Rentec Direct is kind of the best working for you for contractor vendors.
I would not call it the best, but it was, I let my property management company make the decision. They were using Palladium. They weren't super excited about it. Appfolio, when we were starting out, was super expensive. They had minimum of $200 or $300. And when we did a demo, they said, with everything we needed, it would be minimum $500. So we decided not to do that. And then my team did a demo with Rentec Direct, and they seemed to like the best. At least I haven't logged into Rentec Direct in over a year, but last year they had a very outdated UI. But at least my property management company, they were happy with it. They were happy with the support, so they decided to go with that. And they haven't really brought it up with as an issue, but it doesn't do everything. Like for example, we like to track a lot of data on our property management side. So we track that on Google Sheets, for example, because we looked at all the system. We looked at Rental Direct. We looked at Palladium, AppFolio. Now that we have, decent number of units that we manage,
Right.
but the amount of data that we wanted to track, we still could not. So we track that offline. For example, almost all system can tell you the vacancy that you have between, from the time property goes vacant to the time property gets occupied, but we actually like to track a lot more in between. So we like to track from the time property went vacant, how long did it take for my guys to actually go on and give me a bid on that property? And once they gave a bid, how long did it take for them to complete the project? How long was the property actually on the market was? And how long before we accepted the deposit before somebody moved in? So, and the reason for that is, let's say I might have 2 vacancies on a property. I might have, property that goes vacant on Jan 1st and it gets occupied on March 1st. Another property goes vacant on Jan 1st and gets occupied on March 1st. So, on surface, it looks, they're exact same vacancies, but the first property might have gone vacant on Jan 1st, but my contractors did not actually start working on their property until Feb 15th. They did it in a week and it got rented out right away. So now that tells me that I need more guys, versus the other vacancy might be where my guys, worked on the property Jan 1st, it went vacant. My guys put it back on the market on, let's say, Jan 10, but it was just sitting vacant until March 1st. So now that tells me maybe we were asking too much for rent, or it was not the best time period to rent the property. So we track that for every single property that we have. So we like to see how long it's actually been vacant for, not just how long it's been vacant for, like from the time it went vacant, how long did it take for my guys to go in and give me a bid on that property? And once they gave a bid, how long were they actually working on? So imagine like something like this, but it's for property management. So, new vacancy, then it would be, okay, we're getting estimate, it's under rehab, instead of listed for sale, it would say listed for rent. And then this would be rental deposit received, and the last would be it's rented out. So we track it in 6 different stages for our rental properties.
Got it.
But
You can do.
I'm sorry?
And you can track your rental property income and expenses in here, right?
Yeah, you can track all the financials for your rental properties, but not the tenant side of the business.
Mm. Okay. So the rental income that goes into like your income that's on that cover page, right?
So let's say if I bought a property in Max Properties, that's the name of my company. Let's say if I have 2 rental properties in sitting in Max Properties. So even though my property management company is managing, let's say Max Management is managing that. So the tenants would pay rent to Max Management, and then Max Management would pay Max Properties at the end of the month. So that income would still come into Max Properties, and that's where I would record. And I would, let's say, the rent was $1,000.
Yeah, it's after all expenses income.
Yeah, but we would still track it at the gross level. So I would, so let's say if the rent was $1,000 and after, management fee and other expenses, they paid me $800, I would still track it that the rent was $1,000 that we received, and $100 was, let's say, management fee, another $100 for expenses. So I would still track it as the gross income, how much were the expenses. I would not just track it as net revenue of $800.
And,
I still want to know how much
you
was the
track
actual.
that, you track all of that in this application, right? In REsimpli, right?
Once my property management company pays me, then they would give me a statement of, hey, we paid you $800. Here's the breakdown for 800,000 was your rent, $100 was our property management fee, and the other $100 was some expenses. And then I would go in. So when my bookkeeper inputs that transaction, she would go in. So here, like she would do something like this. She would select, like the vendor would be, let's say, property management company. And then it would be whatever property it's for. The account would be rental income. And then it would be, let's say, $1,000. And then, sorry, actually it would go right here. And then my, let's say my fee, property management fee, let's say was $100. And then it would net to $800. And that's what would match up with my bank statement. But I would know that what was the breakdown of that $800. So it would be every month, my bookkeeper would record it at the gross income and put all the income and expenses and not just the net number.
Okay, so they would reconcile it to your bank account.
Yeah, they would reconcile it to my bank account. So yeah, they would like, if it had, let's say if it had 10 different expenses one particular month, then they would go in and put every single expense. So I know exactly how much money, even if I get $100 at the end of the month, I want to know, the rent, how much rent did we actually receive? Was it the tenant actually just paid $100 and my property management company did not charge anything? Or the tenant paid $1,000, but we had property management expense, and then we had a bunch of these small little expenses. So I want to know every single thing by every single property.
Okay. And you track that by unit, or someone else tracks that?
We
You have
track
your
it by,
property manager? Okay. Okay.
no, we don't track it by unit. So I have some properties that are 2 to 4 units. So in my property management system, they track it by unit because they want to know by unit. But for me, I track it at the property level. So I don't really, so think of it like when we're filing a tax return, putting on a Schedule E, you're putting everything based on at the property level. So that's how we track it in our financials. But if I want to look on a specific unit, then I can, I have the report from my property management company that I can look into.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. Marshall had a, when we link bank information, make payments from this platform? Very new. Marshall, no, you currently cannot make payments from the system. It only links up your bank account and just pulls transactions. So it's for bookkeeping and accounting purposes only right now, not for making or receiving payments. Cool. Anybody else with any other questions?
I just have one more question. I'm sorry.
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
How many people do you have managing this side of your business in the REsimpli side?
The house flipping?
No, just like this whole program, this
Oh, the
application.
software
How many
company?
people? Sorry.
The software, the recently, how many people do we have?
Yeah, because I mean, like there's so many things to like build it. So like the call flows and like the accounts and like, is it all your account? Like how many people do you have building it and managing it?
I mean, we have about 40 people on our team between development companies, support team, marketing, and other admin work.
Okay.
All right. But the way we build the system is where you should not have to use a bunch of different systems. And then we have onboarding that we provide, like we can help you get set up and up and running. Like if you sign up and then you send us an email, supported recently, like we'll give you an onboarding link to set up a call and then just help you get up and running. And you'll get some basic tutorials on, like when you log in, there's a link to, actually we're making an update to our system. This should go live this week or early next week. So you don't see it on the live account, but on this account. So we're adding this, some self onboarding. So some of the frequently asked questions we get, how to set up a call flow. So we're adding all these videos to make it a little bit more automated. You can say, okay, this is completed. And then if you want to see tutorials, you can click right here. It'll show you all the tutorials that we have. If you want to connect somebody from our support team, you can email, see the phone number, or you can just click right here and it'll pull up a live chat for our support team. Or, you can suggest a feature if you want to suggest something that we should be doing. Or if you want to book an onboarding call, you can just click right here. It'll open up a calendar for our team member, and then you can just schedule a call from right here and set up a call, and they'll jump on a call and walk you through on anything that you have. Anything else, guys? Any other questions? Any other thoughts or feedback?
You are doing an incredible job, and so is your team.
Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate it, man. It's based on the feedback that we get. I go through it every single day and look at, all the feedback, and a lot of changes that you see that we're making is based on the feedback that we are getting. So I appreciate, I know you've been giving us a lot of feedback, so I appreciate that. Keep that coming. That's the only way we can keep improving the system. So I appreciate the kind words.
That's a quick question, Sharad.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yes. For the onboarding tutorial, is there a cost associated with that?
There is no cost. You can book as many calls as you want, and there's no limit to it. We will record the call and send it to you, so it becomes part of your training library also. Some of the teams that we work with, we do like a ongoing weekly call with their team for the first 4 or 5 weeks. We'll help them get fully onboarded. If they want to do multiple calls a week, we can do that, but there's no cost to onboarding.
Excellent.
And there's no limit to how many calls you can do.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you.
Sure. Cool. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I'm excited. Next week call is actually going to be one of REsimpli users. He's been using the system for about almost 2 years now, and he was doing about 5 to 7 deals a month, I believe, and now he's doing about 15 to 20 deals a month. And some people in our Facebook group asked us, if he could bring somebody that's scaled their business and is doing high volume and kind of what he's doing. So he's going to be on a call. His name is Dean Rogers. He's going to be on the call next week, Tuesday. We'll send out more information about it. I'm excited about that. But if you guys have any other, ideas on what you want us to cover on these calls, please let us know, so we make sure all of these calls are adding more value to your business at the end of the day. Cool. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. And I'll see you guys on the next week call. Thank you.